Hello, and welcome to the Lady Stairs Knits podcast. My name is Sarah. I'm so excited that you've clicked on this video and that you'll be joining me in episode number 14, and I'm going to tell you about all of the things I've been making for the past 3 weeks. I'll start with my finished objects. I have two, and they're both socks. Both of the socks I made are by the same designer, Stone Knits, and they're kind of similar. But here's the first pair that I finished. They're the Radish socks. These have been going on for a really long time. It was sort of a long and bumpy road to finishing these. The first sock went off without a hitch. I'm using all superwash merino for these. The brown is by Sugar Plum Circus. It's twig. The gray is Ernest Shaw by Neighborhood Fiber Co. The magenta color is Plump by Hedgehog Fibers, and the green is Malabrigo Ivy, and it really doesn't take very much of the red or the green at all. And the brown is actually a sport weight, which has resulted in a bit of a thicker sock, but I think that that will be good come winter time. It's not great right now, but the second sock I knit 3 times. The first time I couldn't really understand why it was so much bigger than the first one, but it was in the foot. I unraveled back to the heel flap, and I decided that for the next go around I would just keep decreasing for the gusset until I had 64 stitches. But when I got there, the gusset sort of was wrapping under the foot, and I realized that, well, I had actually knit the second version up until the color work at the toe. And I was looking at it and I thought, no, I really want this to be right. I need to just rip all the way back, figure out what went wrong. And when I ripped all the way back, I did figure out what went wrong, which was that I had forgotten to do the decrease. There's a decrease round after the color work, and I had forgotten to do that, so it had thrown off all of my counts. But after a lot of, I don't know, months and months of knitting on these on and off, I do have a pair of socks. One of them, the ends are woven in, the other one, the ends are not woven in. And I came to real yarn chicken at the end of the second toe. I think I had about 2 inches of the gray left when I was done. So that was very satisfying. I don't know if I've ever won yarn chicken before. Normally I don't win yarn chicken. It's just a regular heel flap with, I believe this is an Eye of Partridge heel and a French short row heel turn. I think it's the French turn. And a normal wedge toe. And I think that they're great. I haven't worn them because it's been very hot here in Philadelphia. But I'm looking forward to wearing them. I think that they'll see a lot of use this winter. The second pair of socks I don't have with me because I've already given them away, but I will put some photos on the screen now. And they are the Rising Sunflower Socks by Stone Knits. This is a test knit. I saw it when I had COVID in Scotland, and they really reminded me of one of my friends who loves sunflowers, and she has a tattoo of sunflowers on her leg. So I texted her wife asking whether she had small, medium, or large feet. They're both really close friends of mine. And then I started knitting them for her as a gift. I used John Arvin's Exmoor sock in these colors. Mizzle is the gray, Drumble is the yellow, and Aggie is the green. And this Aggie color I think is spectacular. It has this sort of sheen to it. I can't really describe it. It's not really in the other two, but it's just so beautiful. And I love this yarn. It's quite splitty. It's not actually the best yarn while you're working with it, in my opinion, but the resulting socks were stunning. They were really really beautiful. And I didn't even wash them before I gave them away. So apparently this yarn it changes quite a bit after the first wash, but I don't know how it changes because I didn't wash them before I gave them away. I have quite a bit of yarn left. In total, the socks weighed 61 grams, so I have about 90 grams left, more than enough to make another pair. And I don't really know what I'll do. I could just do some stripes, which that would be quite nice. I do really like these colors together. I have no idea what I'll do. I probably would want the yellow to be the main color as I have the most of it. But I really enjoyed working with this yarn. I definitely am going to use these up, and I would consider buying it again because they had a lot of really nice colors. And other than the splittiness, which sort of came and went depending on my attention in the moment, I had a really positive experience with the yarn. It's been on my wish list for quite a while to work with it. So I'm glad that I did. And I gave them to my friend and she loves them. So I hope that she will get a lot of good use out of them. It was kind of hard to give them away at the end because I really liked them. That pattern was released earlier this week, or maybe last week on Tuesday, I think. So if you want, you could get that pattern. It was very well written, makes very cute socks. You can actually make them any flower if you change the color of the petals. That might seem very obvious. I hadn't considered that. I thought sunflower, they have to be yellow. So if you have a different favorite flower, you could maybe do a different color. But they knit up pretty quickly. I did the color work on the second sock, and it was just much looser than on the first. I'd knit the first sock while I was away, and I'm almost so sticky when I'm there because it's hot and I'm wearing sunscreen and I'm on the go. So I had to deliberately tighten up my tension when I was making the second sock when I was at home so that they would match. So eventually it worked out. I did come to a point where I thought, I really should unravel this and redo it so that they match. And I had that moment, there's sort of teetering moment in between where you're not sure if you're gonna unravel, and I always do. So I'm very glad that I did because I definitely think that it was better the second time around. So that is my second finished object, and those are both of my finished objects. Now I will tell you about my works in progress, and I have 3. I will tell you about the most planned but least exciting one first. Maybe it's not fair to say that this is the least exciting one. I'm personally very excited about it, but it's just not very much to look at because it's only a cast on so far, and it's not even all of a cast on. This is, if you can't tell, the Roosty vest by Ella Gordon. It's an Oliver Colorwork vest, Fair Isle design, and it's bottom up. So I'm currently casting on the stitches for the bottom. It's got quite a thick band of ribbing at the bottom, so I figured that this would be very good travel knitting because it's just this needle, which is a fixed circular, and this little ball. So I think that this is quite good travel knitting because it's such a small ball of wool, and I'm still casting on. It's 300 plus stitches in the cast on, and I'm about 200 in, just over 200. So I've got quite a ways to go. I keep bringing this places with me and doing a few more stitches. I'm doing the slip knot cast on, which I do on socks quite often. Here, I've done it on this sock, so you can see what it's gonna look like. I really love this cast on because I think that it's so stretchy and springy. It's just a real hassle to do, especially on yarns that aren't very smooth. It's easier on smoother yarns, but I always find it to be worth it. So I think that it will be great. at the bottom of this vest. I just, it's just gonna be a long cast on process, and then quite a lot of very involved ribbing. I know that my gauge is off. It's far too big compared to the pattern, but I'm making the size that has 0 ease, and I think that I want a good amount of ease in it. Really, as much as I get will be fine. Maybe when I get past the ribbing, I'll remeasure and see, check in to see if I measure my swatches, compare it with the pattern gauge, and check in to see if I feel like it's appropriate. But it's not got any shaping, so it's sort of just a boxy vest. I think that no matter how much ease I have in that, it will be fine, because I'll probably mostly be wearing it over t-shirts and turtlenecks and stuff, so I don't really need it to be close fitting. I really love the colors that I'm going to use. It's different from the colors that are in the pattern. I did also like the colors that were in the pattern, but I wanted to mix it up because I very rarely use recommended yarn or follow recommended colors, because I love to choose my own. And I think that these are just stunning. This was my first swatch that I didn't really like, so I made this second swatch, and I like this a lot more. In a previous episode, I've shown a photoshopped version of this with each of the swatches repeating, so you can see what it looks like, what it will look like in the garment, as opposed to just the one iteration of the chart, which really gives you a better insight to what it's going to look like. And these swatches are made based on the tutorial that Ella Gordon posted, I think on the Jamieson and Smith YouTube channel. But I really like the finishing and how nice of an object it is, of a piece of fabric. It's a very satisfying thing. It takes quite a while, but you really get a good idea of what your finished fabric is going to look like. You just tie off the contrast yarn with the background yarn at the edge, and it's knit flat. It takes quite a bit of time, but I definitely think it's worth it, especially for something that's going to take so much time as a garment otherwise, and where color choice is so important. I'm not experienced enough with Fair Isle to really know what my colors are going to look like unless I make a swatch. So this was definitely a good learning experience, because I made this swatch with the original colors I chose, and I don't think that it really was what I wanted. This medium orange is too dark, and I think that it interrupts the pattern. I think it obscures what like these flowers and these knots and crosses look like. You can't really see them in this one. So I'm very excited to have cast this on. It's been something I've been planning on making for months now, and yeah, I'm gonna get going. I suspect that when I start knitting the color work, it will fly by, but the ribbing is going to take forever, and the cast on is taking forever too. I have 100 more stitches to cast on. I'm using a 3mm needle for the ribbing, and I'll use a 3.5 for the body. I didn't want to go down too much for the ribbing because I don't want it to be too cinched in at the bottom. I just want it to be a little bit cinched in. And I hopefully that will work. I also like the feeling of the metal needles with this sort of yarn, and I like a fixed circular for this sort of long, arduous cast on. So yeah, hopefully by the next time I'll see you, I'll have done at least a little bit of the ribbing. Every row is over 300 stitches, so it's gonna take me a long time to get through that anyway. But maybe next time I talk to you, I'll have done some of the ribbing. That would be ideal. So that's my first work in progress. It's my current travel stuff. I feel very tired of making socks. I've just made socks non-stop for the past month, and before that I was working on my cardigan, which you can see in the background, I think. And that was an extremely, just very detail-oriented, high level of finishing for me process. So I've been enjoying doing things, as you'll see later on in the episode, over the past few weeks that are much bigger gauge, thicker yarn, faster, sort of on a whim. I've been really enjoying that. Although I did spend a good amount of time since you've last seen me knitting that pair of sunflower socks for my friend. My next flip is very exciting for me. It was a total spur of the moment, just for joy cast on. And it is this Treysta, I think it's the Treysta sweater by Jennifer Steingass. And I used my Nutidin yarn mostly. So here, I'll show you. You might remember I cast this on 2 months ago, and I made a huge mistake right before the color work, which resulted in me sort of knitting a weird cowl. And I got quite far with the color work, probably about as far as I've gotten now, but I noticed it was a bit tubular, and I went back and I realized I'd missed increases that amounted to about 150 stitches, so it had to get ripped out. It was good for nothing. And then I took a break from it for a while because I was sort of upset about having to rip out so much. But I finished my socks, and I had finished my cardigan, and I just got back from volunteering, and I wanted to catch up on The Bachelor and sit on the sofa and just knit something that was gratifying. So I pulled out all of the little balls of yarn that actually my friend had wound up for me for last time I cast this on, and I decided that I would just start. I went up a needle size because the last time I knit this I thought that it was a bit too tight, so I'm using 6mm needles, and I just started going. I'm making the smallest size, but my gauge is way off, so this is definitely going to be lots of positive ease for me. The yoke is already very long, and I'm about halfway through. This green is Skostra by Nutidin. It's this dark green. It's actually quite a muted dark green, which I think is nice. Often when I see it on my shelf, I'm not that attracted to it, but I do think it's really nice in this pattern. I wonder if the light will hit it in a way that you can see it well. All of the contrast colors other than the black are also Nutidin yarn. So this was just something that was a free gift. Actually, both these whites were free gifts. So I don't know what they are. I think that this bottom one was quartz because it's sort of like a grayish, like a gray white or a light gray. And then I think that this top one, there are some streaks of pink in it. And I know that they had a white that had streaks of pink in it, very subtly, a few months ago. So that could be what it is. And then this middle color, I don't remember what it's called, but I bought 300 grams of it, and I really like it. I've been using it for a lot. I actually have some here. So it's like a pinky browny gray. It also has some yellow in it too. I would call it brown, but I do really like this color. It's so interesting to look at. And I think that it is beautiful with the green. It really makes it pull pink. Whereas there's another project I'm using this on, and it makes it really pull like beige in my opinion, so you'll see that in a minute. The only issue with this is that I ran out of the black yarn. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was just happily knitting away. Oh, piece of fluff. Blissfully watching Rachel and Gabby deal with the 35 men that signed up to be on their season of The Bachelorette. I was heckling, I was yelling at the computer screen, having a good time by myself on this was like a Thursday night, I think. And then I ran out of the black yarn. It's totally my mistake. I had planned on using my cone of black Whole Super Soft held double. At the last minute I thought, no, use something else. The black is going to be too harsh with these colors, which are all kind of subtle and have quite an earthy tone to them. So I decided to use the natural black that I have from the New Lanark Mill in the DK weight, which I had used a little bit of it for a contrast color for a test knit that I did in January, which I've heard nothing from the designer about, so I still haven't shown, but it was for a sweater that I wear all the time. And I only used about 10 grams of it for that, so I thought 40 grams of DK weight. That's probably enough for just the black. No, I was wrong. It really wasn't enough. I'm only about halfway through the yoke and I'm out. And the yoke keeps increasing, so yeah. I'll show you what it is on. Oh no, my hair. Alright, I wonder if you can see what it looks like. I love it. It's gonna be much deeper in the yoke, and then I'm just gonna knit it huge. I have so much of this green. It's gonna be a tent. I'm gonna love it. I'll probably wear it a lot in the winter. It's quite a loose gauge, but it's not really airy at all. So I think it's just gonna be amazing. I'm so happy with it. This was such a joyous knit. I just was grinning ear to ear the whole time I was knitting it because it was so refreshing, and it's fun to use this yarn that I've been collecting and obsessing over for the past couple months that I haven't really used in a way that was fun for me. So it was just so good, so much joy. And then I ran out of the black yarn, so I thought, okay, well, I'll pick up and knit the collar or the neckline. So I chose to do this quite deep turtleneck. I think with this unspun yarn, it works best if you don't want a wide neckline to do a quite tight cast on and then pick up for the collar, or it just stretches out quite quickly. And I wanted this to be behind the collar because for me, having a really warm jumper with a very open neckline isn't very practical. So I decided to knit this sort of intense turtleneck. I'm sure it'll stretch out a bit. That's fine. I've got lots of room in there. And yeah, so now I've pretty much done everything I can do on this. The reason I haven't bought more of the black is I got the yarn in Scotland. It's really quite cheap in Scotland, and I'm moving in 2 weeks, so it would be really, really not logical to buy it and ship it over here when I know that in 2 weeks I'll be able to get it for £4. And I don't have anything that's quite the same color because it's a natural black. So it's got some white in it. It's actually quite a dark brown. So that leads me to my next work in progress. So there I was, sitting in this room. I couldn't work on my COLOURWORK jumper anymore because I ran out of black and I was really sad about it and I just really wanted to keep going. So what did I do? I cast on another COLOURWORK jumper using almost the same yarn. I didn't say that it was the most logical decision, but it was what I wanted to do at the time, and it is still bringing me a lot of joy. So this one, it's quite bunched up on the needle, is the Kordy sweater by Moon and Turtle. It's from the Moon and Turtle book that Pom Pom magazine released about 1.5 years ago, I think it was. Oh, something I didn't say about the last jumper, that my green Treysta, was that I followed Bella from 100 Acre Wool's video tutorial on how to plan a COLOURWORK sweater using, what's the app called? Like using Procreate and Photoshop, and I just followed the whole thing. So I was able to put together, using the options that I had, images of what the sweater would look like using different combinations of the yarn that I owned digitally so that I could see what it looked like. I'll pop that on the screen because it's very cool. And if you are not so sure about your color choices for a jumper, or if you think it would be really fun, which I found it to be extremely fun, I would really recommend going to watch Bella's video and following that, because it really helped me out. I was able to really fine-tune what I wanted my jumper to look like. So yeah, that was very cool. And I did that about 2 months ago when I cast it on for the first time, which was why I forgot to say when I was just talking about it. For this jumper, I did not do that because I knew what I wanted before I started it. I've had my eye on the Kordy jumper for quite a long time because I love the black and white graphic design element. So I knew that I wanted to use quite a stark black with a white, and I knew that I wanted to use this purple Nutiden, which I purchased not too long ago. I'll just grab the plate. So here is the purple Nutiden. I think that the color is Infinitive, but who knows? And then I had quite a lot of options as my contrast color. I was considering doing an orange, which I thought would look very cool and sort of maybe a bit like 70s ski wear. But I had just not enough of the orange Nutiden to do that. So I really didn't want to run out of yarn again. And I wouldn't be able to get more of that orange Nutiden. So I decided against that. And I had a bit of leftover blue, but I didn't really want to do blue because I wanted it to be, I don't know, purple. So I ended up going with the same contrast color that I used in my other one. And look at these two together. Aren't they nice? I think that they're very nice together. It actually looks quite purple, like a purpley brown. And then I used the black cone that I had planned to use in the other one but didn't. But this one, I did want it because I wanted it to be quite stark so that it would have that really graphic black and white stripes effect. And I decided to go with, instead of a stark white, I used the leftover from my cabled cardigan, the Anfield Angora yarn. But when I started knitting it, it looked a bit thin compared to the others because I'm using the Nutiden held double and the holes held double, but it's really hard to get an idea of what the hole thickness is going to be before it's washed. So it does look thinner than all the others, but I think that once it's washed, it'll fluff up. So this was looking quite thin. So I decided to add a strand of mohair to it, and I used this mohair, which I purchased ages ago from Neighborhood Fiber Co. I don't know the color. I don't think they make this mohair anymore, or I don't think they dye it. I really liked this because 60-40, which is what this is my preferred mohair ratio, 60% mohair, 40% silk. But they don't make that anymore, which is sad because I really liked this. I had originally bought it intending to do a sheer V pullover by Jessie May, which I'm still interested in doing, but my idea was to do it in tarja split, so half of it black and half of it white, and I still think that that's a cool idea, and I still want to do that. But I've had this mohair for ages, and it was starting to get a bit matted, so I thought I'll just use it. It will be good. And it is. I think it is good. So let me show you where I am. Oh, also, I think it's worth noting that I originally cast this on at the top of the ribbing, and I knit the ribbing, and then I switched out of the ribbing, and the neckband just immediately stretched out. I didn't want that, so I ripped it out. I held the Neutrogen with a strand of this Holst Super Soft, which is in quite a similar color, just for the cast on. And I did a long tail cast on, and I'm gonna pick up the neckline later. But I think that this will hopefully lend a little bit more stability to that line, because I don't really want it to stretch out. I don't think that this one's gonna be a turtleneck, but I don't want it to be that stretched out. And I'm knitting this at a tighter gauge because I felt like it. I didn't make a swatch, but I'm still using a much bigger needle than what is recommended in the pattern. And it is coming out to be a size that will work for me, I think. And this is what I've got so far. It's quite bunched up on the needle. I think it's amazing. I love how fluffy the white is. I love the part where this contrast color interacts with the darker purple. I don't know if you'll be able to see that there's a beautiful halo to all of it except for the black. And I really like how stark the black is because I think it really breaks up the colors. And I also like how not stark the white is. If you can see in the background, my cardigan, it's not actually that white. It's more of like a pearl gray, and it definitely looks white in some lights, but it's that natural light color of the goats. And that's what I wanted. I thought that it would be great to have a deep, pure black with a natural white. I don't know, I just thought it would be good. And I'm holding it with this sort of creamy white mohair. I have about 10 rows left on the yoke. It's beautifully designed. I really have had my eye on a number of the patterns from the Moon and Turtle book since it came out, but I don't tend to buy patterns or books until I'm just about to cast on. So I was quite excited to buy the book because it really opened up many doors of possibility for me to make things. And I have been following the Instagram hashtag for the Kordy pullover, so I've been seeing a lot of people's different color combinations, and I was able to choose a color combination and really have a good mental image of what it would look like, because I've just been seeing so many of these, and I love it. I think it's going to be amazing. I haven't decided whether I'll do a black neckline or purple, but I think that I will do that quite late on. So I'll get down past the yoke, maybe I'll knit the sleeves, and then a bit of the body. I might wait last to choose the neckline. I just don't know what I want to do. And there's a lot of time, and it's working up pretty quickly. Not as fast as the other one because this is done on a 5.5 millimeter and the other's being done on a 6, but it is still very satisfying. It's so funny, whenever I do these colorwork yokes I really look forward to the plain rows, but then I'm always just itching to knit colorwork, so I wonder why that is. I guess in every other row being colorwork would be my ideal, but maybe eventually I'll knit something like that. Yeah, loving the black and white stripes, loving the colors. I think it's beautiful. These are going to be kind of similar to each other, this one and this one. That's fine. I'm happy about that. And I've been collecting Neutrogen for months now and just buying and buying it. And other than one garment that I made, I haven't really been using it. So I'm very excited that I'm finally using it and really getting to know the yarn, getting to use combine the different colors that I might not normally use. Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's hard to have it in my lap and not work on it, but I will put it to the side. I to do 2-ply with the Holt, I've been winding it into a ball periodically, and then I'll just knit one strand off the cone and one strand off of the ball. So those are my works in progress. Quite exciting if you ask me. And I have no idea next time how much I'll have done because it's been working up so fast. So now I'll tell you about my acquisitions. I bought a couple little accessories and I bought 2 balls of yarn. One of them, not that exciting, another green ball to go in my Roosty pullover because I've made 2 quite substantial swatches and I was quite close on this yarn when I was buying it anyway, so I figured I should just get another one while I was ordering from somewhere that had it. I don't think that this is a very good seller because when I bought it, it cost something a bit extortionate, like maybe $8 a ball, but there were like a bunch of different price tags on it and I peeled them off, and originally they were pricing this at $5.75, so it's kind of funny. I guess there's just a lot of colors in this range and maybe Pine Forest isn't the most popular one and it's been around for a while, but I'm glad I have it. I also bought this color Abretia. I have 3 of these, and with this one I have enough to make a Look at My Holes pullover, which I think is going to be great in this color. There's a pair of trousers in this color that I've been eyeing up, and I really want to buy, and it would be cool to have a look at my holes that matched. So these are the 2 balls of yarn that I bought. I also bought a tape measure because my other one broke. I bought another fixed circular for the Roosty, and I bought 2 more sets of 2.25 DPNs because my friend who I've been teaching how to knit snapped one of them, and I had snapped one. So now I was left with 3, then I was left with 3, which is not enough to knit in the round with DPNs. So I bought another pair of Licca needles in the wood for me to use, and I bought a set of the Knit Picks carbons for my friend to use because I figure it will be quite hard for her to break those. She's a very tight knitter, so it doesn't matter that she broke it, but I think that it'll be good to have a very sturdy set for her to use because I think she prefers the DPNs versus the circular needle. So that was my order. I bought these things from Woolen Company. I don't know where their physical shop is based, but they've got a very extensive online shop which has a great website, so I quite often buy things from there. And that's everything. I hope that you've had a good 3 weeks. I hit 100 subscribers yesterday. That's so cool. I can't believe so many people are watching my videos. Thank you for watching and for commenting in the past. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments of this video, and I hope that you have a really good 2 weeks until I see you next time. Goodbye.